The insanity begins, and this is great. Welcome to the show, Barry your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest. We've got Mike Jones, and he is salivating right now just to get involved. Because, as the late, great Mills Lane used to say, let's get it on.
Let's do
And
it.
it's actually time. We had the play-in games. That was a little bit of a tease, but let's face it, that was a kiss goodnight, and you're already on date number 4, and you're thinking, how much longer do I want to string this out? Let's get to the action. And it all happens today. It begins 12:15, and you have, 16 games on the ticket,
Hmm.
16 games to bet, 3 million ways. There were so many mathematical permutations that you could do to try to figure out how many options you have on wagering. And Michael, what I love about you, the great Mike Jones, is that not only are you not afraid to go ahead and eyeball the upset, but at the same time, you will be running to the windows at halftime
Hmm.
of many of these ball games, having viewed your trends and tendencies.
Yeah,
And this is in open defiance of our usual geezers at Caesars approach, where, hey, give me one winner every day.
beat
People
us.
have scrapped that, Mike Jones, and I'm glad you've gotten on the bandwagon. I haven't quite gotten there as feverishly as you have, but very interesting. I mean, a zillion ways to bet this thing right now.
Yeah, just a fantastic time. Now live betting, now props on kids scoring points. There's just so much stuff to bet on, and it's just you could find your little niche and what you like and what to do, and stick to it, and be one of these guys, or you just go everywhere. I mean, I can remember living in Vegas in 2007 to 16. Just this was the best time. You got your hotel room. Even if I lived there, I went to my hotel room for 2 days so I could sit there for 12 hours. Some places I even arranged my own little TV setup in a bar instead of being in the book because the books were packed. Go find your little lounge, and you get them to put 3 portable TVs so you have all the games sitting there, and have friends come in and have to create your own party. It's just an awesome time, and run to the window when you wanted. Now they have it all on a phone and an app to play on. It's just an awesome time. But this is the event for me. March Madness, the first week of the tournament is just a legendary, fun, ultimate guys' weekend in Las Vegas. Was what it was for 2 decades, and now you can go almost anywhere in the country and have a good time if they want to provide you with it.
Yes, and you could be an expert on interpreting Ken Palm numbers, or you could be a guy who's throwing darts or trying to pick the games by which mascot looms superior if they were going to fight it out. And maybe have about the same chance as anybody else. If you are betting the games, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting in 2025. And let's face it, this is going to be a wagering bloodbath going on for the next several weeks, especially here we go, 4 days in a row. I love the early portion of the tournament even more than later on because there's more action.
Yep.
Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online, your ultimate game day companion. They have the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball. And when we say that, it sounds almost benign. And you're thinking, this is college basketball right now. It's going to be incredible. So you can make all your wagers right there at Bet Online. The NHL, UFC, Dana White's got a new boxing thing going. It looked a little bit crazy to me. Bet Online continues to be your number one sports betting source. Every three-pointer, hat trick, Bet Online has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, so where would you like to begin, Mike Jones, here today? Would you like to begin with some general?
I'll begin with last night. My aggravation of last night. Let's give the
Let's
fun in that. So we get a break at Mount St. Mary's game. Unfortunately, the best player for American gets hurt, so I think I got a coaster. So I sent out to people, all my friends, and showed that I had my dog pick these games. My dog named Cash, and I
I
put it
did see
on
that
there.
piece.
A
Yes.
different way of looking at it. Said, I'm going to bet the dogs. I'm going to put her in on the video and see what happens. And then here comes Texas. I'm up 8 at halftime, but something goes through my mind in a degenerate way saying, do I go 2-0? Do I figure something out? So I went after a live bet at plus 7.5 with Xavier, took another one at plus 3.5, which I wasn't fond of, and took Xavier at halftime minus the 3 to just kind of didn't take it for all the money, but just took enough that I would have a winning day. And that's kind of the different way I play it now. Than you bet so often, it's hard to keep confidence throughout all these events that you're constantly going to pick 8, 9 in a row. So just had a little feeling. Sean Miller looked like the coaching was having a little difference. Big guys got in foul trouble. They stayed within 8 at the half. And you just had that feeling, the odds makers. I was looking at live betting, which sometimes it takes your lines. When Texas was up 10 early, the line was only Texas -2. Xavier's down 6. They're still favored 2. You kind of thought that the price maker kind of liked Xavier in this game, and that's kind of how I follow it. So sometimes that guides me through a bet. But yeah, I was very disappointed in Texas finish. Thought the lack of movement, some mental breakdowns I thought happened. And, there was a little coaching advantage I thought that Xavier had, and it showed up, I think, a little bit at the end.
You're like a broker.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Down
get deep
there on
into it,
the corner of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Buy, sell, buy, sell. I mean, looking at all these numbers that
Yeah.
pop up in the midst of what's happening, and
Right.
and that has to be the modern way. Although I don't know, is it somewhat? Well, we know that all gamblers are fueled by self sabotage, including ourselves.
Yes, without question.
Is this eventually? I mean, is it part of? I thought that Brent Musburger was on a Bury America campaign, but when he first came out with the Las Vegas Information Network,
Yes.
something like that, and he had these handicappers that used to be featured in. I don't know if it was just the New York Post, which I was receiving, or other newspapers around, but you saw the stuff online, and they would write these very eloquent, lengthy pieces with all kinds of examples about why you should go in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Based on numerology, based on style of play, based on a zillion different factors, and routinely they would lose.
Right.
So, and you're thinking, they're out to bury America, but with all of these wagers, I mean, is it wise to get overwhelmingly involved, or will there be a time where people come back and go, "I'm so glad I stopped doing that." The 12-team parlays.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing stories, guys hitting 14-team parlays, betting 5 to 8 to 1 on the money line, and throwing a couple straight bets in there, so they might have big money lines on 10 plays. The next thing you know, someone's showing me a ticket that they hit for $7,000 on $100 ticket because they did it. So I mean, yeah, they just offer you more and more, and they love the parlays now. So that's the whole thing. I just look at it like you could see a momentum change, and you lose these bets too. They don't automatically middle, but last night I had a good night, and I just said, why let it ride on a team that you just watch? The eye test is telling me I don't know that they're really going to hang in there at the end. And it happened, so I got a little lucky there, but it's not, I could lose. I could have given away my Texas bet, which happens, but that this is a kind of a system of hedging that I think more people should really pay attention to, that helps you last long. I think the juice now going to 112, 115 on some of these live bets is telling you that they don't want to offer that, as a free roll, like at them. The bookmakers are smart guy. They know what the public wants. They know how to manipulate the numbers, and they get you to, they pull you in by all the excitement and what happens. So, but you're seeing the rules changing now. You can bet a 15-team parlay now where you never could bet it before. They're willing to take it, and it's they're saying you're not going to win, and if the books have deep pockets and they're out there legally paying it, that you can go take it. So there's a lot of ways to different bet. I just saw this last night as kind of the frustration of having a Texas wager and then getting into this where it was.
I love it already.
I never felt overconfident Texas was the better team as I watched the game, although I thought it going in because I followed the SEC and looked at a little bit of Xavier. But again, the numbers don't lie, and some of these guys do. But hey, they're going to change. If a team's 7-0 against the number, there's a time they're going to lose. So,
well, and you're a golfer, so and I remember a guy telling me this on a course that I was butchering, and he's saying to me, "Hey, listen, you have to somehow, convince yourself that when you smell a bogey is the best you can do, then make sure you at least do that."
yeah.
And so it's okay to hedge off a little bit on your bets, and let's face it, when Shakespeare. That was a weird extrapolation that the people eventually came up with. He never wrote to be or not to be. It was to hedge or not to hedge. And you have become the master of and what's wrong with that, right? I mean, you get most of your money back.
Yeah.
And you're essentially canceling a bet after you gave it the eyeball test and you realize I am going to lose.
Let's look at this. There's a new thing out there called the cash out.
Okay.
The cash buyout, where they're going to offer
it with the parlays too.
Yeah, they're going to offer it to you at a certain time, even on a straight bet, that you're going to be able to get that little takeout if you want. If you're up, 2-0 and it happens. I listen to some hockey guys tell me 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey, but if you're going to go out there with a 2-goal lead, you're going to get plus 6-1 if it loses outright. So you get one of these games is, if you follow and listen and keep your ears open, there's going to be information coming your way that might not be the math that everybody normally loves and wants to dig into, but maybe an experience of somebody that goes through it, and one of the bets I'm going to give out today is is a basic first half bet that is on a big price that you worry about, teams. But one of these handicappers that I respect came out and said on a video that, there's a lot of emotion in the very beginning of a game when a team's got a chance. They might not be able to stay with them for 40 minutes, but might be able to stay with them for 10 or 12 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you lock in that first half wager and then see what happens in the second half. So it's not necessarily, and I have many friends that want to bet quarters in games in football and stuff just to have that result in the first 30 minutes. People like to see where their balances and how their figures are going. So this is all, like we said, so many different ways to bet and different ways. But yeah, it's just an interesting time, and especially here.
Yeah, and as the Asian heroin dealer said to Denzel Washington, an American gangster, and I think gamblers should have this in mind. And it goes along with a theory that my son gave to me that I wish I had followed because it would make sense, although it would take some of the fun out of doing what we love to do. Anyway, in the movie, he says quitting while you're ahead is not the same as quitting, as Denzel's getting ready to
Yeah.
go ahead and orchestrate and execute the
Yep.
final drug deal where he gets popped.
Right.
So, had he stopped, he was way ahead of the game. And
Right.
so, to your theory out there, I mean, if they offer you the cash buyout and you're sensing, well, geez, not only am I
Mm-hmm.
universally snake bit, so I usually
Right.
come from ahead to a losing position,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe you're sensing that things are
Yeah.
starting to go south or going the other way,
Right.
and you can cash out a little bit early. And my son's theory was the minute you're 10 cents ahead, 10 cents ahead at any gambling venture, whether you're playing cards, whether you're playing the horses, whether you're betting in the casino, or whether you're in the sports book, uh, leave.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you happen to make a good initial score, then you walk out with a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you were behind the whole day, but you finally got 10 cents ahead, then you leave. You
Yeah.
leave a winner, and there are those tragic occasions, unfortunately, that we've all experienced too often to want to remember, where you never cashed the ticket all day. In that case, you're just flat out fucked. All right, we want to make the people some money. I know you have some brilliant theories on this. I don't know if you're sticking with your Grand Canyon. All of the wise guys love
Yeah.
Dread
Yeah.
with an upset, and you have 16 on a slate today. Mike Jones, what are you looking at for the people out there?
Okay. So found some information that could be nice to give to the listener, the viewers and stuff. So the two most bet teams, 78% and 72%, are Yale at 78% and High Point at 72%. Well, those are nice little dogs that were talked about very, conveniently on CBS on Sunday when all the analysts are making their picks and what to do, and people thought High Point would beat Purdue and Yale's going to beat Texas A&M and all of that. I just look at this tournament a little differently. We were talking the other day. The NIL, I think comes into play. I think the better players are somehow organizing like the NBA to go on better teams. I'm going to say for the first time, I will actually be surprised if a 1, 2, or 3 seed loses. And I've always picked a loss, from a 3-14 game, a 2-15 game. Always have had something happen where someone's going to go down. I just find it really hard at this point to see how that can happen. So one of the games that intrigues me is this Michigan UC San Diego. Everybody's all over this UC San Diego. I kind of thought that Coach May got Michigan together with that nice little run at the Big Ten. I think we were talking about this, on Monday. That when has the Big Ten champion only been a 2.5-point favorite in the first round of an NCAA tournament? I'm
Holy
not falling
mackerel.
for it. I'm going to go. I'm going to get on Michigan late at 2. I'm going to buy a half at late at 2. One of the buys is when you get to these games at 2.5. When you get around 2 and 3, these games. I think a bucket at the end here and there. I kind of would buy the half in that price, whether it be up or down. I'd probably at 2.5. I would take it to 3 or take it to 2 for the dog, thinking it's a one possession game at the end, and that would happen. So just a little protection. So I'm going to take Michigan and buy it down to 2, and that'll be one of my plays today against UC San Diego.
All right, Michigan laying 2 points against UC San Diego. Michigan wasn't accorded much of a shot when they went on that 3-game losing streak
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of the regular season. They bounce back, they win the Big Ten tournament. We know that Dusty May is a very polished individual. I've met him. He's extremely focused. Even when he's in a sort of a more informal environment than being in the usual basketball coach mode where you come in for the press conference and go, well, you know what, we played well, blah, 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 blah. He's, very much focused on what he's doing as a basketball coach. I don't know if that's really saying anything all that profound, but this is him. He's really good at this. So might be worth a shot there. And I look at this when I'm trying to determine if a coach really has ability. Yes, they have to have charisma. They have to be able to put teams together strategically. Come up with the goods, maybe in matchups and things of that nature, which also need to be considered. Tom Izzo was talking about that on SportsCenter last night, saying, "Hey, this boils down to matchups a lot."
Mm-hmm.
Player matchups, much more so than coaching matchups, which a lot of people put credit on. But the progress that guy Vlad Golden made, that went from FAU with Dusty May to Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
this guy, I mean, in his first season in his freshman year at FAU, I mean, he looked like a staggering drunk coming home. He looked like us back in the days where you might have been sniffing a little of the powder and coming home after drinking a bottle of tequila to kind of balance out the buzz. And now, I mean, they're pretty polished. He's not like Zach Eady, but you see
Yeah.
when there's a critical rebound to be grabbed, this guy's a monster in there with a lot of power and strength, and his
Mm-hmm.
footwork has gone from being a complete clod. I mean, look like Jean Pachulia to looking like Fred Astaire out there in sneakers. He's done a great job with this kid. So a very good coach, of which there are many that are making a rise. And so Michigan, Mike Jones, willing to lay two, buying
Yeah.
shaving little half point off there, the dagger, and
Mm-hmm.
going to Michigan today over UC San Diego. All right, what else you have for us, Michael?
I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna dig into a team I've been following pretty closely and have relationships that are very close to Coach Pitino. But I'm going out to St. John's in Omaha up in Providence. Now, the bet that I like, and I've heard this, and it came out yesterday, is St. John's has struggled at start of games, and there's a little pressure on St. John's for the first time. They can guide through the Big East and all that, but now they're in a 2 seed, and the expectations are high. This is what this is all about. Sure, Rick will have them going, but will they be going in the first 10 minutes of the game? Does Omaha get out to one of those 9-5 leads, and now it's St. John's got to press? So I'm going to take a chance and take Omaha plus the 11.5 in the first half only, thinking that maybe it would be a game bet where you take the first half and think the Johnnies are in a close game and then they blow them out in the second half. But this is just a bet going on feel and going on what I saw in the last couple of games. They didn't cover. They covered against Butler, but like there were 5 games prior to that. They got off to bad starts and they didn't cover the last 2. They were down to Creighton, down to Marquette. They weren't playing well in the first half of the game. So it's just kind of a thing where, the energy is usually with the underdog in the very beginning. If they can knock down shots, that's it. And the flaw that everybody sees with St. John's is the lack of 3-point shooting and free throw shooting. So if they get off to like a 1-for-6, 1-for-7 start, taking a 3, that kind of lets people know, kind of keeps the game kind of close early on. So I'm going to say that the second half adjustments that Patino's done so brilliantly will be the next adjustment, and I'm going to take my chances and grab 11.5 in the first half.
They certainly ratchet up the pressure defensively in the last, you would say, quarter from
Yeah.
about the 10-minute mark on of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Nice theory, Mike Jones. I really like this one, the sluggish start theory. I used to always handicap boxing in that fashion, saying I take a guy like even the great Vasily Lomachenko. Routinely gets off to really slow starts, and you're looking at guys that kind of gave away the first 4 or 5 rounds, and you have to figure that one of these days, that's going to snake bite you on the scorecards.
Right.
The judges are actually going to give an accurate count, give you none of those rounds where you didn't throw a single punch, and then later on, I mean, maybe it leads to some kind of majority decision where the underdog gets the win. The sluggish starts by St. John's have become, as you said, fairly characteristic
Yeah.
of their play. And so catching 11 and a hook first half only.
Yeah.
Mike Jones.
Different.
Omaha today.
The different game, but yeah, we're gonna take a look at that. I am gonna stick with Grand Canyon. Line dropped to 9.5, 10. Maryland is a very nice team, well coached. Love Willard, Kevin Willard. I just like with Grand Canyon's experience and their athletes, and I think that game could stay close. So I'm going to still stick with my Grand Canyon plus 10 bet.
Now, were they in your Cinderella category as a team?
Yeah, I got him in brackets going to the Sweet 16 and one,
Oh,
and, you know, but I
that's
think it's just a tough. The brackets I found that to get that 12, that was the only team I had really lower than an 8 going anywhere. I just don't see the upsets like I've seen in the past. I think I actually filled out one bracket for the first time in history where I had all one seeds getting there. So I don't
wow.
look like any genius, but I just did. I just looked at that I think there's a clear echelon of better teams, and I think they exist with Houston, Duke, Auburn, and Florida. I just think that they're better. I think the pressure's on Auburn a little bit with their downside, but you've seen this happen before. I go back to that Virginia team that lost to Maryland, Baltimore County, and then next year wins a title. Like, to say that they figure it out at certain times. Coaches now know the kids play for this time of year. You know, like the Texas little run to get into the tournament was they beat Texas A&M in double overtime. They won 2 games in the tournament. Probably needed both games, obviously, to get in, and they gave Tennessee a run. But last night it was didn't work for them. But the game I'll also mention, because I won't be with you tomorrow, is wow, did North Carolina put it on San Diego State?
Yes.
And now what makes me really interesting is I was looking at this and saying, will they even could they be a favorite over Mississippi? And sure enough, they're laying 2 to Mississippi.
Yes.
So maybe they bought in. Maybe the whole philosophy that the pressure was on them mentally, that they had to perform, worked in their favor, which they saw that they walked out with all that pressure, the history of North Carolina, and now we're going to be embarrassed that we should be kicked out of the league. And there's a controversy, we should be kicked out of the tournament, and we should not be in there. And it's like, they show up and play as good a game they probably played all year. Let's roll that again and say, give me North Carolina -2 against Ole Miss.
All right, rolling with North Carolina. They're laying 2 points. Certainly an overwhelming display against San Diego State, a team that was in the Final Four a couple of years ago. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
loves the coach there. He seems like a legitimately decent human being. And what is it, Dutcher? And he
Yeah.
does a great job.
Yeah.
But it was a slaughter right from the outset.
Yeah.
Hubert Davis under some pressure. He was schwitzing, sweat all over his face during the
Yeah.
interview, and you were thinking, "My God, you're cruising to an easy victory here, Hubert. You don't have to feel this level of anxiety anymore." Yeah, definitely on a little bit more of a roll. Certainly, you would have thought more of them in terms of accomplishment during the regular season, or expected more of them. But maybe they've eradicated some of the
Yeah.
problems we have, and what would be definitely worth a punch here. Everybody's darling, everybody that we talked to was Drake.
Yep.
This was a wide cross section of different people that I spoke with about the tournament. Various people you're always asking. I mean, is that not the first question of every guy that does interviews? Hey, who's your Cinderellas? And so we asked that of a variety of people, including the great Jim Larinaga. He was the first to point this out. This guy McCollum has become the hot commodity among coaches, even though we've already seen a couple of coaches move into higher profile
Yep.
jobs than they previously had. Wade from McNeese
Mm-hmm.
is moving on, and
Mm-hmm.
taking the LSU job? No, North Carolina
NC State. Yeah.
State, and DeVries from West Virginia was only there 1 year, and he gets a job at Indiana, where there was a lot of speculation, including
Mm-hmm.
it was like a clockwork orange. Your name was mentioned. I think they mentioned even your name in conjunction with that
Yeah.
job, including Rick Pitino. But uh, Drake, I know Grand Canyon just Cinderella. What do you make of it? Does Drake get out of the first round? That's my question to you, Drake.
I don't know that I take
Take off
Missouri
the
in
guard,
the
right?
game. Yeah, I don't know that I bet Missouri -6. I'm not sure what happens on the result, Bob. I
You'd
probably
have to
wouldn't.
be inclined to take the points, though, with the way
Yeah,
people
I mean,
are on this team.
but again, like again, the sweetheart team like that, it does it once they get that popular. Like, I'm very kind of intrigued that Yale and High Point are the 2 most bet games
Yeah,
teams of the first round in today's games. Like, where's that come from?
because the Yale people have the money.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
only two guys, but
yeah.
they have generated 78% of the action
I
through
I
rather
just
large amounts.
I'll give you a little story real quick before we end the show. But
Yeah,
I had an interaction with Buzz Williams, and we were sitting in a restaurant, and there was a bunch of coaches around, and I didn't know who he was. I just heard his name, but knew of him. And all this guy wanted to do was whatever we were talking socially, topics of anything. He didn't care about anything. All he was doing was getting the salt and pepper shakers and the napkin holders and designing plays and doing this. And he was part of this under 21 college team back when J.J. Redick was playing in the Olympics back then.
Yeah.
And Kelvin Sampson was at the table, Tom Crean, Jim Boeheim, Bo Ryan was a who's who. And he didn't want to talk about anything else when I walked in the room. It was just they wanted to talk about X's and O's. So Buzz Williams has always been a coach that I don't think you're going to outcoach. So he's an impressive guy, understands the game, been around the block. I just don't like the. I kind of root for him a little bit, so I'd be surprised if Yale wins that game. But again, these are the teams that people fall in love with. This is what the tournament's all about. I was having conversations with people. People want to bet these underdogs, and you can see that of the 16 games, 10 of them are bet by the underdog more. So it's just an interesting time.
The professor hates people that root for Yale. And you can picture it, somewhere outside of Palm Beach. They just got finished with brunch at Mar-a-Lago, and they run over to the polo fields there. And after a couple of, chuckers, they they start rooting for the chuckers from Yale to hoist the threes. They're wearing a polo shirt that is very pricey that they bought at the gift shop there at the polo place. And, obviously going to be vastly overpriced. They were probably sending it in, but to sit with that bunch of guys and have to root for Yale, I would rather be in the OTB in Jamaica Queens, rooting for the second race at Beulah Park to go to the three ball.
I had that happen when I would see that Yale shirt or Harvard shirt out in Vegas. Oh, you went there? No.
No, I have an Iona shirt.
Like I would be so intrigued to see that. And I'm like, wow, this guy really went there. I want to talk to him. And then half the people I say that to them would say, no, I don't go there. I just like the shirt. Oh, okay.
Rick Pitino sent a bunch of Iona shirts when he got the job for our dear friend Leslie Visser, who was kind enough to pass a couple on to us. Pitino liked us because we were known degenerates, and he came on shows with us, here and there. And I had the Iona shirt for a long time. And everybody always thought, I was doing my walks out here on A1A in Lauderdale by the Sea, Florida. And everybody's like, yeah, did you go there? Yeah. I mean, it would be like one or two people that went to Iona, which a friend of mine told me that the Iona actually stands for Idiots on North Avenue. That's how they look at it. Big Gunner podcast coming up tomorrow. No, you already
Tuesday?
did it. Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, we're hoping we'll have a quarterback for the Giants. Still a lot of intrigue out there. Who is it going to be?
With Tommy Cutlets. You're going to put him down?
No, we're not happy with the Tommy Cutlets. When Tampa got a hold of us last year, we kind of put an end to that whole fiasco. But I like him as a kid, and I think he's good for the organization, and he tries, and I like him as a third-string quarterback. But we're moving forward trying to do that. I think I'll have my second round Sweet 16 picks. So nice. We'll know a little bit more about where we're at with all the tournament at that point. Am I going to be right that no top 3 seed gets beat? Who knows? Probably I'll be wrong, but I'll talk about it. And just a little bit more on basic getting ready for the draft and enjoying the
all opening day. Also, I mean, it's right around the corner. I know you're a big baseball.
Yes, fan, so. Yeah. Opening day actually came out. Dodgers are 2-0 already. Cubs there. I'm sure next week we'll talk about it on Monday. Maybe get some because I guess Friday was it open? Friday 27th, I think is when.
The 2 games in Japan, Cubs and the Dodgers featured many Japanese players, including 4 big time players that are on the Los Angeles Dodgers, and so they only have 160 more to go perfect season, the first ever in Major League Baseball history.
We're going to dig into handicapping that over the weekend, and we'll probably get with you on Monday. So come back to Bury Your Bookie on Monday with us, and we'll talk some baseball. I'll have some season wins. I was 3-0 last year, and hopefully we'll give the picks this year. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Great. Always a pleasure, my friend. Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen, here. And that's going to do it for today's edition. Good luck, everybody. Have fun out there. Make your wagers. Find a good place to watch the game. Don't get too drunk. And remember, no matter how poorly you do this afternoon and this evening, there's always tomorrow. All right. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.